What's up guys, Leap Daniel here. All the cards are out now, so I'm going to be doing my final review of all of them. I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as I can. This is totally unscripted, so without further ado, let's go. Copy Enchantment is a 1 mana, 1 blue gem uncommon spell. Copy an enchantment and add it to your hand without gems in its cost. I think this is really OP. I think you will be able to copy, basically it's a nerfed version of whatever the best enchantments are. So do you want 6 Serpent Dens in your deck? The possibilities are pretty much endless here. I think Copy Enchantment is great. Higher Ground, 2 mana, 1 blue gem, uncommon enchantment. Occupying minion has +1/+0 and Breach, Divination 3. Forge, occupying minion has +1/+1 instead, and Breach, Divination 4. I think this is another great one. It's amazing in rainbow decks. You want to burn your enchantments anyway, so it's easy to forge, and Divination helps you bring more to the top to really get that advantage. Might of Giants is a 2 mana, 2 blue gem rare spell. Give a minion +2/+0 and overrun, returns to owner's hand at end of turn when in the boneyard with an enchantment above it. I think this one's not so good. I think it's really hard to get enchantments into the boneyard, so the recursion on this is not likely to happen too often, so not such a great card. Hall of Matrimony, a 3 mana, 1 blue gem omen enchantment. Awaken if you control only one Hall of Matrimony, enchant the lane to the right with Hall of Matrimony. When 2 of your Halls of Matrimony are occupied, occupying minions have +1/+1, and once per game add the Ring of the Betrothed to your hand. And the Ring of the Betrothed is a 1 mana item, ephemeral. Give a minion gets +2/+0 and Defender during your opponent's turn. So it's basically just giving Ravine Guardian effect to your minion. Hall of Matrimony is just okay. Maybe in decks where you really want to cover the board in enchantments quickly, it's a little helpful, kind of like Sandscape. Certainly has a nice interaction with Stormseer, but it's really hard to get them both occupied, keep those 2 spots occupied, and the ring is nothing to write home about. All right, Spear Sister. Spear Sister is a 4 mana, 1 blue gem, rare Valkyrie minion with 5 attack and 4 health. Before attacking in combat, deal 2 non-combat damage to the defending minion. So it has reasonable 4-drop stats. It has the Valkyrie tag, and it basically has Knives in the Dark attached to it. So I think that might be good enough for Valkyries who are perhaps hungry for a better 4-drop, but I don't know where else you'd really run this. Maybe with Field of Poppies, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's OP, which is appropriate given that Valkyries are already very strong. Sven the Gatekeeper is a 4 mana, 2 blue gem mythic minion with 4 attack and 5 health. Teleport, awaken, reduce the mana cost of the next enchantment you play by 2 mana. Sven is amazing. He's got competitive stats for a 4-drop, and he reduces the cost of another card in your hand by 2. So he's basically, in some sense, a 2 mana 4/5. He can't come out on turn 2, but I don't know how often you're going to be using the teleport effect. That's odd to me, since he doesn't come with Swift, but good enough. I think Sven is a solid card. Glacial Bully, a 6 mana, 2 blue gem common minion with 7 attack and 9 health. Overrun, after defending in combat, is stunned until end of your next turn. I think it's viable to compare this to Hyperborean. Hyperborean doesn't see any play. I don't think giving Hyperborean +1/+1 would make him OP or anything. This is Hyperborean with +1/+1 without some of the positive effects and with a negative effect. So Glacial Bully, not good. Glacial Bully is a bad card. Moving on to yellow here, we've got Corrode Equipment, a 1 mana, 1 yellow gem uncommon spell. Give a minion Blight 1 or Blight 3 if it has armor. This is pretty good, I think. So previously we had Yana Virus, which was 2 mana, give a minion Blight 1, with it also being spreadable, kind of. But this is 1 mana, give a minion Blight 1, which is already okay. And you can give it Blight 3 if it has armor. So you can either just use this as a counter to armor, because a lot of new cards in Rings of Immortality have a lot of armor, or you can run this with the Protect power and protect your opponent's minion and then give it Corrode Equipment so that it really suffers from Blight 3. So I think this card is pretty good. Morbid Centrifuge is a 2 mana, 1 yellow gem rare artifact with 11 durability. Stacking, at the end of your turn, shuffle a Virulent Strain item into the top half of your opponent's deck. Virulent Strain is a 0 mana ephemeral item. You lose 2 life. draw a card. If the drawn card is a minion, it gets Blight 1 permanently. So I think Morbid Centrifuge is interesting. Certainly has potential in things with Dragon's Teeth Stretcher. You're getting your opponent to draw more. You're shuffling in these virulent strains, and it decays your opponent's minions when drawn by a virulent strain. But the trouble is that your opponent can decide when to use the virulent strain. So that puts a cap on just how good this is. If they can arrange things so that the top card of their deck isn't a minion, perhaps with divination or foresight or something like that, then it's not as good, right? It's just an empty draw, and it doesn't cost them anything. So I think Morbid Centrifuge maybe has some applications, but it's kind of niche. So Morbid Centrifuge, not so good. Steroid Drip is a 3 mana, 1 yellow gem uncommon spell. Give a minion fragile 1 and gets +1/+1 at the end of each turn. So the idea here is that it's versatile. You can use it on your opponent's minion or yours. Maybe you can use it on something which already has fragile, like Impoverished Ogre. So the negative effects don't really matter too much. Or maybe you use it on an opponent's minion and kill them before they get the +1/+1. But it's so expensive. 3 mana is a lot. And it's very slow. It's a buff where you don't see the benefit the turn you're buffing. So I think it's just really bad. I would compare this to Focused Frenzy. Focused Frenzy is 1 mana more, but you see a lot of benefit the turn you play Focused Frenzy. And then as far as a negative effect, Field of Poppies gives a bunch of minions Fragile 1 for only 1 mana. So Steroid Drip, really bad card. Annulus Fabricator is a 4 mana, 1 yellow gem Mythic Omen artifact with 3 starting energy. It gets +1 energy at the start of your turn, and you can spend 4 energy to copy one of your other artifacts into your hand with Ephemeral. And it has a Forge effect. It gets Awaken, add the Ring of the Elder to your hand. And the Ring of the Elder is a 1 mana mythic item with Ephemeral. Give a minion, whenever you create an artifact, gets +2/+2. So obviously Annulus Fabricator was intended for Fires of Creation decks. Kind of reminds me of the Copy Enchantment card, except it's for artifacts. So, but it's a lot more expensive. It's 4 mana, so I don't think I can give it the same glowing review. It could be good. There are some powerful artifacts out there, and there are some artifacts which are mythic or rare that you just want a lot of copies of. So I wouldn't totally knock Annulus Fabricator, but it's very difficult to get the Ring of the Elder, obviously, and it's very slow to copy enchantments. But if you can play a grindy enough Fires of Creation deck, I think this opens up a lot of paths. So don't totally discount it. Okay, Contagionoma is a 4 mana, 2 yellow gem mythic minion with 1 attack and 7 health. It has 2 energy to start with. Give a minion Blight 1 when dealing combat damage to it. At the end of your turn, get +1 energy if any minions are affected with Blight, or -1 energy if none. Then deal energy damage to your opponent. So this is maybe showing us that there's some room for some kind of Blight-based deck, and I think it's pretty good, actually. It's this interesting combo of Blight and Burn, and if you can heal it up, or if you can armor it up, or whatever you need to do to make it live a long time, this can really get out of hand. So I think it's pretty good. Insta Beast. What a simple card. 4 mana, 1 yellow gem, common spell, give a minion +4/+4. So I think this is pretty good. I mean, the whole point of a lot of these new yellow cards is to snowball, to stick something on board, and then to make it big. And Insta Beast is a very simple but effective way of doing just that. So I think Insta Beast can definitely find a home. I don't think it's OP, but it's reasonable. I would compare it to Daring Trapezist, actually. Daring Trapezist is a 2 mana rushing 2/2, and if you play this on a minion that you already have on board, this is a 4 mana rushing 4/4. So I think that's pretty good. Now it requires you to have something on board, whereas Daring Trapezist doesn't, but I think Daring Trapezist is very powerful, so this is powerful enough. Next up, Geothermal Furnace is a 5 mana, 1 yellow gem rare enchantment. Minions created here get +1/+1. When occupying non-ephemeral minion dies, add a Forgeling to your hand with mana cost, strength, and health equal to its mana cost. Forge, creation bonus, is permanent. So I'm not sure quite what I understand about the Forge. I think it means if the minion moves off the geothermal furnace, it'll still have +1/+1. I don't quite understand that. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of the Forge effect, but before the Forge effect, it's basically creating more Forgelings when you play non-ephemeral minions of high cost, especially, will give you good Forgelings. So I think that fits in Yellow's wheelhouse. If you play like an artifact deck with big boss monsters like the Twins or Sapo or Tanglestein or whatever, you can get big Forgelings. So I think it might be good. I don't think it's OP, but it's a good value generator. Okay, Hunter of Man is a 5 mana, 1 yellow gem common spider minion with 5 attack and 6 health. Give a minion Blight 2 when dealing combat damage to it. Forge gets non-spider minions in the opposing 3 lanes have Agile and Alpha Strike suppressed. So a lot of these effects would be better on something smaller and cheaper. I don't know how often you care about giving Blight 2 when you're already dealing 5 damage. I don't think it's that good, but it's if there ever comes a time when there are lots of big boss monsters being slung around, these big heavy-hitting minions, and then Hunter of Man is a wonderful counter to such things. But I don't know. There's nothing like huge with Alpha Strike or anything like that. So I think it's too much mana for what it's doing, and all of that is invested in stats when you don't need particularly the attack. I'd almost rather it had like 2/10 or 2/9 or something instead of 5/6. Okay, we've got a multicolor card, Energetic Broxa. It's a 4 mana, 1 yellow gem, 1 orange gem, rare minion with 4 attack and 4 health. Overrun, gets +1/+1 when your opponent gains life. I really don't think this is very good. Maybe the overrun is nice, but I wouldn't value it too highly. I don't see why it's so important to overrun. Opponents don't heal that often. So like, let's say your opponent heals once. Even then, I don't think they'd heal that often because they know that they shouldn't heal when Energetic Broxa is on board, but if they heal once, then this becomes Wendish Giant stats. I just don't see why that's so great. So I really think this is not a good card. Okay, Crucible Fire. 2 mana, 2 red gem, rare spell. Deal 3 damage to a minion. Forge, if the minion would die, banish it instead. I don't think this is that good because Ignition deals 2 damage to anything for 1 mana. So you're just increasing the damage by 1, and then you banish it if it would die. So maybe it's a good Necromantic counter because Necro has 3 health and you'd love to banish a Necro, but unless you really need banishing, unless decks with lots of grave recursion are punishing you, if you're maybe you hate green or something, I think most of the time this isn't worth it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. Charon Portcullis is a 2 mana, 1 red gem uncommon spell. When occupying minion dies, flip a coin. If heads, shuffle it into the top half of its owner's deck with +2/+2 permanently. Forge, if tails, you gain 2 life. So this is a coin flip card, and I think it's a lot better than the last one. The last one could get you advantage. You could draw, which was wonderful, but this one, you can get a positive outcome almost no matter what happens. I could see running this maybe as your enchantment for Colosseum of Strife, because Colosseum of Strife wants you to have those stats and wants to draw stuff off the top of your deck with boosted stats already, so this is just leaning into that even more. It is concerning that it doesn't really do anything on board, regardless of the result of the coin flip though, so not amazing, but maybe playable. Alright, another red enchantment. This time it's a 3 mana, 2 red gem, rare enchantment, Plasma Station, with when occupying minion dies, your vampire gets +1/+1. Forge gets occupying minion has life tap. So this is good in, this is a vampire card, so it's good in vampire decks. I think it actually does something on board, so that's nice. I don't know how necessary the life tap is because vampires already have a lot of life tap. It's a nice way to keep some stats on board to partially refund you for your lost minion. So I don't know if it's too slow, but it's kind of a middling card, I think. Okay, Strigoi Runner is a 4 mana, 1 red gem, common vampire minion with 5 attack and 4 health, Forge, Swift, and Focused 1. So Unforged, this is very bad. It's just Chloe Sunshine reversed, so we all know that that's not good. Forged, it's got a nice effect because it's hard to stop the focused effect, right? If you block it on the sides, then you can swing in for 6 to the minion. Or you can run away and swing face. But it's basically just Winter Wolf with Focused 1. And Winter Wolf isn't that good. So I think this is also not that good. And getting 6 attack on a minion when you only have 4 health is rarely important. Usually both minions are going to die. Like the 6 versus 5 distinction on a minion doesn't matter. It only matters when you're going face. So I think Strigoi Runner is bad. Might not even see play in Vampires. Gorgon Ellie is a 5 mana, 1 red gem, common serpent minion with 6 attack and 5 health. Demise, deal 3 damage to your opponent. Forge, Swift. So I think it's all about the demise, really. That's what makes this card. Getting in that last burn damage when your opponent has locked down the board. If this thing's gonna die at all, then they're gonna take the burn. So if you've gotten your opponent on the edge, then Gorgon Ellie can kind of finish the job. So I think Gorgon Ellie is not great because it's not doing a lot when you play it, but it's serviceable. So Gorgon Ellie, good enough. Another 5 mana red minion, 5 mana, 2 red gems, uncommon minion with 6 attack and 3 health. Masheri Blade Dancer has Rush if opposite another minion. I don't think this is really what Red wants to do. Red doesn't want to be opposite another minion. This is either expensive removal, or maybe you hit something with very low attack, but on turn 5, how likely is your opponent to give that to you? I don't think Masheri Blade Dancer is very good. Strigoi Prota, a 7 mana, 2 red gem, rare vampire minion with 7 attack and 4 health. It has life tap, and once per turn you can sacrifice one of your other minions to get immortal until the beginning of your next turn. Okay, so very, very expensive, but if you can keep those chump minions flowing, it's really good because it's immortal not only during your turn, but during your opponent's turn as well. So I think this has to be a good card because you need non-destruction, non-damaging removal to deal with it, and it has life tap, so it's going to be gaining you health every turn, so you have to deal with it. So yeah, I think Strigoi Prota, the question is, will Red ever want to go that late in the game in the first place? Does Red even want to burn 7? But if you can build a vampire deck that stretches that long without closing the game with something like 7 Ring Ritual, I think Strigoi Prota might find a place in it. Okay, Aggravated Injury is a 2 mana, 1 red gem, 1 purple gem spell with destroy a minion that has less than full health. So this is like Execute. It's like a lot of cards from a lot of different games, depends on what games you play. But it's mythic, so you can only play 1. I don't know if this will be good now because Red doesn't have many other cards that benefit from partial damage, but it does have Ruby Raider, which deals 1 to everything. So I think even now, it might be good enough. So Aggravated Injury might still see some play, and I think there's potential, if they make more cards like this for Red, that it's a very powerful card. So Aggravated Injury is good. Moving on to green, we're starting off with a indeterminate cost card, Aneli, or Angeli. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's an uncommon 3 green gem spell. Put a minion on the bottom of its owner's deck, spending mana equal to its mana cost. So this is really good removal because most cards don't actually shuffle the deck. If you use Divination or if you burn a card, it doesn't shuffle the deck. It just puts the card back in at a random place. So since the deck is actually rarely shuffled, being on the bottom it's really hard to get something from the bottom. So this is like spend equal mana to a minion and get it out of existence, basically. I think it's very good. Next up we have a weird one, Comrade in Arms, a 2 mana, 1 green gem, common canine. With a standard action, return the bottom spirit in your boneyard with mana cost 3 or less to an adjacent unoccupied lane, it gets ephemeral, then disable this ability. So I think this is very weird. It uses up your action. So you can't attack the turn you do it, and you can't do it the turn you play it. But if your opponent doesn't mess with it, you can bring back Necromantic, or you can bring back Vixen, or anything really. So as slow as it is, I think it will find a home, because it has amazing recursion, and spirits and green both love recursion. So I think it has to be at least kind of good. Next up, we've got Judas Hex, a 3-mana, 2 green gem mythic spell. All minions get, at the end of your turn, lose 3 life, and you can spend 1 mana and a standard action to sacrifice this minion. And if it's forged, you can choose a minion to avoid being cursed. So I think this is amazing. I think it would be really interesting to play with Pseudonomicon and some kind of red-green burn, because then you can forge it and get it back. I think yeah, it's amazing counter to aggro, because they're going to be burning themselves with all their little minions, and so they have to spend mana and lose the minion just to not burn themselves to death. I think it's really fun and creates a lot of different choices. So I really hope this card sees play. I think it's really interesting. Okay, Call from the Grave is a 4-mana, 1 green gem uncommon spell. Return a spirit minion from your boneyard to your hand and reduce its cost by 4. It gets Awaken, deal 4 damage to your opponent. I think that's really powerful. It's recursion that doesn't make the card ephemeral, and it deals burn damage. I think, in my mind, there have always been like 2 different spirit builds that were being pushed. One which was grave recursion, and one which was burn. And this seems like it's kind of the marriage of the 2. This will be a card that's run in both, because it does both. So I think this card will be really good. If you're playing spirits, you play this card. Okay, Muscle Weight, another 4-mana spell, 1 green gem common. Give a minion at the end of its turn, deal damage equal to this minion's strength to its controller, and 4 mana, sacrifice this minion. Forge, increase the cost of the granted sacrifice ability to 6. So this is like Judas Hex a little bit, except instead of targeting wide boards, you target one really big minion that's dealing a lot of damage to your face. So I think this is a very powerful card. Probably will see play in the same builds that run Judas Hex. I think it's good. Okay, next up, Volkov Hetman is a 4-mana, 1 green gem mythic canine soldier with 4 attack and 4 health. Friendly canine minions have, adjacent canine minions have, +1/+1. Absolutely amazing in a canine build. I think that's obviously the only place you're running this, is like a pure canine deck with lots and lots of canines, but that deck will love this card. This might be the only mythic card you're running in most decks like that, and it's amazing. Yeah, Volkov Hetman is really good. Okay, Unforgivable Crossing is a 5-mana, 1 green gem mythic spell. Return the bottom 3 minions of your boneyard to your hand with Ephemeral. Add the Ring of the Departed to your hand. And the Ring of the Departed is 3 mana. Ephemeral, give a minion Demise, return a minion from your boneyard into play with Ephemeral. So it kind of gives it the necromantic effect. Except it's not the bottom minion in your boneyard, it's a minion of your choice, I think. So it's in some ways better than necromantic. So this card is Graveyard Recursion times 10 or something. I'm almost getting tired of green having so much grave recursion. There you go. It's more hand advantage, more redundancy for necromantic or whatever it is that you want, and I think it'll find a place. I think it'll be very powerful. Okay, Auto Magic Artillery is a 6-mana, 2 green gem rare minion with 2 attack and 7 health. It has armor 2 and slow, so you're not probably playing this for its attack primarily, but once per turn you can deal damage to your opponent equal to the number of spells in your boneyard, and it cannot be returned to hand or deck from play. So I think this burn spirit or burn spell deck with autocam is definitely going to want to run this. This will be your finisher where your opponent is clinging on to their last life, and then 6 mana, boom, Auto Magic Artillery. You fire a shot at them, and it's a blue action. It's once per turn, so you can do this the turn you play it even. So you fire 1 shot on turn 6, and then if they don't remove it, and it has armor 2, so it's very hard to remove, then you can fire another shot on the following turn as well. So I think Auto Magic Artillery is very powerful. And then we have Arc Lighter, which is a 2 mana, 1 green gem, 1 purple gem, rare minion with 2 attack and 2 health. It has Agile and gets a standard action the first time you cast a spell each turn. Same kind of deck as Auto Magic Artillery, where you're doing this sequence of spells. It's maybe not as good. At first I thought it got a standard action each time you cast a spell each turn, which would have been OP, because if you can chain a whole bunch of spells, you can just poke for 2 with each spell. But this is not as good. It's more like a conditional frenzy or rush. I think it's okay. It might see play in sort of one of these Spirit Burn decks, but I could also see it not seeing play in those decks. So it's kind of on the edge. Okay, first up in orange, we've got Mod Frame, which is a 1 mana, 1 orange gem common minion with 1 attack and 1 health. It gets +1/+0 when you burn a card with Forge or Forged, and it has Forge itself, Armor 1, and Warded. So I think a lot of people, just like with K9, easily overestimate this card. They overestimate the chance that they'll Forge it on turn 1 and say, oh my gosh, it's an Iron Flesh Performer with Warded. That's amazing. Actually, I think most of the time it's going to be 1/1 on turn 1, or maybe on turn 2 it's going to be a Minotaur, where you play Mod Frame, then you burn another Forge minion. So I think it's not that great on turn 1, but it's maybe still good enough, and the chance of getting Warded and Armor 1 maybe is enough to make it good. But I don't think it's OP. I don't think it goes in every deck, certainly. You need it in a Forge-specific deck. I think it's just okay. Next up, Hammam Retreat is a 2 mana, 1 orange gem, uncommon enchantment, desert enchantment. Occupying minion has +0/+1, while occupied minions in this and adjacent lanes have Blight Suppressed and Regen 1. I think it's okay, but it will only really get played in orange-yellow decks, because suppressing Blight only works either to counter yellow, or if you're playing yellow yourself, to not be affected by Misanthropia. So I think it's kind of niche, which makes it not great, but if you're playing a very specific deck, it could be good. And if there are more board-wide Blight effects that come out, I think it'll probably increase in prominence. But for now, it's just okay. All right, Null Seeker is a 2 mana, 2/3 common zealot with a effect that costs a standard action and 2 mana. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. If one of them burns for a gem that you don't have, you may choose to sacrifice this minion to do so, to burn it, to burn that other card. Shuffle the rest back into your deck. Forge gets Demise Divination 5. So this clearly, if it's played in anything, wants to be played in a deck with many colors. So that already kind of limits it. If you don't get that off, it's basically just a 2 mana 2/3, like a Gardercon. And you have to sacrifice it, and it's really slow. It is ramp, which we don't have many examples of true ramp like that. The only thing we have is Grinning Kolobok. I think Grinning Kolobok is a lot better when it comes to ramp, but this not only ramps your mana, it also ramps your gems. So that's a very powerful idea, but here it's perhaps reasonably very expensive. So I don't think Null Seeker is going to see any play. All right, next up we have a non-desert enchantment for orange. So those are kind of rare. It's a 3 mana, 1 orange gem, rare enchantment. When occupying an adjacent minions, deal combat damage to an enemy player, deal 2 more non-combat damage. Occupying minions with Forged gets Overrun. So I think the target here is Triennial Patrol. The idea is you play a bunch of cards together, tokens or something, and you play a bunch of Forge minions, so then you can really push face in the danger zone. Okay, so it's 3 mana, which is a little expensive for that, so I don't think it's very good, but maybe someone will be able to find a place for it. I don't know. Next up, we have Hand of Sod, a 3 mana, 1 orange gem, uncommon minion with 4 attack and 3 health. It has Forge, gets Demise. Look at the top 5 cards in your deck. You may choose a card with Forge or Forged to draw. Shuffle the rest back into your deck. a good Forge support card. It has reasonable stats for 3 mana, and it replaces itself if you forge it, and I don't think it's too hard to forge it. I think Hand of Sod is good. It's not great, and it targets a specific deck, but it's good enough in that deck that it will see play. Jazaeri Arquebus is a 4 mana, 1 orange gem, rare zealot minion with 4 attack and 3 health. Demise is replaced with a Parsa Divinity Cannon. Forge, replacing minion, is created with Lurker until the start of your next turn. So the Forge effect is almost irrelevant. The Demise effect is nuts. Okay, I think Parsa Divinity Cannon itself already costs 4 mana. So I think this is really, really powerful. They'll probably have to nerf it at some point. One of the most powerful minions in the set, I think, in Jazaeri Arquebus. Okay, and then a Mind of Its Own, a 6 mana, 1 orange gem uncommon rebel minion with 6 attack and 7 health. It has a once per turn effect, gets +0/+1, and Defender until the start of your next turn. It has Forge, regen 1. It's kind of like Faceless Construct with some tinkering. The Forge effect is nice, regen is nice, but 6/8 is just Faceless Construct stats rearranged. I think maybe with Grand Finale it'll see some play. It's nice to get this heavy body out with Grand Finale, but other than that, it probably doesn't have a home. Like, normal Rebel decks are way faster, so the Rebel tag doesn't matter. You wouldn't want to run this in a Rebel deck. So I don't think a Mind of Its Own will see much play outside of maybe supporting Grand Finale. Finally, purple. We've got Forge Smith, is a 1 mana, 1 purple gem common minion with 1 attack and 3 health. Add a Forge Mallet item to your hand when you play a card with Forged. And Forge Mallet is a 2 mana item with Ephemeral. Give a friendly minion +1/+1. If it is forged, gain 1 temporary mana. So if you're in a deck with lots of forged stuff, it's almost like 1 mana +1/+1. So I think this is good. I think it's really powerful. It power creeps Simuzin in forged decks specifically. In non-forged decks, you might still probably run Simuzin. So I think it's well designed, and I think it's a good card. Okay, next up is Juke, which is a 2 mana, 1 purple gem common spell. Give a friendly minion threatened by an enemy minion swift and teleport until end of turn. Add an Ojiwaza spell to your hand. And Ojiwaza is a 2 mana, 2 purple gem spell with Ephemeral, and give a friendly minion doesn't take retaliatory damage when attacking until end of turn. So it kind of turns together, these kind of turn any minion into a temporary Shinobi of Smoke with Swift. I think that's very powerful. If you can have a deadly minion or something with really high attack zooming around the board, I think that's amazing. And I think Juke is low-key one of the most powerful spells in the set. Don't sleep on Juke. Juke is great. Next up we have Dead Angler, which is a 4 mana, 2 purple gem mythic minion with 0 attack and 6 health. It's a spirit. It starts with 2 energy. Once per turn, at the cost of a standard action, you can banish a number of spirits equal to the energy you have from the bottom of your boneyard, gain 1 energy, and choose a card to discard from your opponent's hand. When this minion defends in combat, deal 3 damage to your opponent. So there's a little bit of burn in here, and also kind of the hand control element that we saw with Baku Bogeyman. I think this is bad though, because it's so expensive. It's 4 mana, and you have to banish spirits from your boneyard. So any kind of grave recursion spirits would probably not want this, because they like to keep those spirits in their boneyard. Maybe some kind of hand control / burn strategy. But even there, it kind of just seems too expensive, too slow. You don't get to activate this the turn you play it, so often it'll just get killed. It does burn when getting attacked, but it doesn't kill the minions attacking it. It doesn't damage them at all. So I think Dead Angler is a bad card. Alright, Shinobi of Chains, a 4 mana, 2 purple gem, rare minion with 2 attack and 4 health. It has stealth and 2 mana once per turn. Move an enemy minion into the opposing unoccupied lane and give it stunned until your next turn. Immune to damage from stunned minions. Shinobi of Chains is amazing. It's probably the best 4 mana stealth minion, and I think it'll probably bring back Spiteful Mimic with it. I think that's how good it is. You can, first of all, on turn 6, you could, if you wanted to, do this the turn you play it, so the stealth wouldn't even matter. You can just move an opponent's minion. That's not the main use of this, but that is a use, so keep that in mind. And another thing you can do is just keep it waiting, make them think it's a Spiteful Mimic, and then they'll avoid it, and then you pull them in the next turn. So I think Shinobi of Chains is really good. Merciless Koshinga is a 5 mana, 2 purple gem mythic minion with 5 attack and 5 health, and once per turn you can do any of these 3 effects. Move an enchantment to an unenchanted lane, deal 8 damage to an enemy artifact, or add a Born in Cruelty spell to your hand. And Born in Cruelty is a 3 mana common spell with ephemeral, deal damage to a minion equal to its health -1. So I think this card is very powerful, very versatile, kind of reminds me of Universal Hokan in that sense, where you can make whatever change you want. So it takes out enchantments, it takes out artifacts, you can move your own enchantments as well. So if you have an enchantment that you want to move around, maybe you do that. And Born in Cruelty also maybe synergizes with Fragile, right? Because if you use Born in Cruelty on a fragile minion, that just kills it. So I wonder if there's a deck with this and Field of Poppies that could be quite strong. I would definitely keep an eye on Merciless Koshinga. All right, next we have Moon in the Water. It's a 5 mana, 3 purple gem enchantment. Awaken, draw a card. When occupying minion dies, shuffle it into the top 4 cards of its owner's deck as a spirit with +2/+2 and warded permanently. Even though this mentions spirits, I don't think it's something that's exclusive to spirits. You can just play it in a sufficiently slow purple deck with like Colosseum of Strife. So this kind of gives it the Nameless Poet treatment but puts it back into the deck. And it replaces itself by drawing a card. So I think Moon in the Water is pretty good. It's as long as you can make sure you draw those minions again, +2/+2 and warded could very easily get out of hand and win you the game. Gamma Senin is a 6 mana, 1 purple gem mythic minion with 5 attack and 6 health. Demise, return to its owner's hand, and when removed from the game or transformed, add the Ring of Eternity to owner's hand. This is the same Ring of Eternity from Celestial Dragon. It's a 3 mana ephemeral, give a friendly minion +1/+1 and immortal. So this is another one that I think could be very good for slow decks. It resists like pretty much all kinds of removal except for maybe Anelli, because even if they do manage to get rid of it, you can Ring of Eternity it. If you could Stratagem 36 it, then it would be really interesting because you could keep playing it for only 3 mana. I think it definitely has potential. And getting the Ring of Eternity for yourself is also, of course, quite good. So your opponent isn't going to want to transform it or anything. All right, we have Risen from the Deep, which is a 6 mana, 2 purple gem common minion with 6 attack and 6 health. Awaken, gets immortal until the start of your next turn. Forge, gets Demise, deal 3 damage to your opponent and the minion in the opposing lane. So I think this is quite strong. I think it could give Lantern Colossus a run for its money, certainly in Forge-based decks. This is very good. Even in non-Forged-based decks, by around turn 6, you're really wanting to seal the deal, so that Demise from the Forge effect is very good. And I also think Immortal for 1 turn could be something that is very helpful. They will have trouble getting rid of it for a turn. So if you could, I don't know, give it Agile or something, the next turn, it could be sort of very difficult to prevent damage. And lastly, we have a 4 mana mixed card, 1 yellow gem, 1 purple gem, mythic, Tentafire Tygon with 5 attack and 4 health, swift, and when an enemy minion moves, it is stunned until the end of its next turn. So this is like that one 3 mana blue serpent card, its name is escaping me now, where it stops enemy cards from moving, except applied to the whole board. So your opponent will just not want to move at all because they don't want their minions to get stunned. You can also use marching orders to stun them yourself. But other than that, it's just a Winter Wolf with that don't move effect. And the question is that enough? And it's so restricted in the gems you need to run. You need purple and yellow. And so I think this is not very good, sadly. It's an interesting looking card, but unfortunately, I don't think it will be competitive. Now I'll get to my star ratings. Copy Enchantment is a 4-star card. Higher Ground is a 5-star card. Might of Giants is a 1-star card. Hall of Matrimony is a 2-star card. Spear Sister is a 3-star card. Sven the Gatekeeper is a 5-star card. Glacial Bully is a 1-star card. Corrode Equipment is a 4-star card. Morbid Centrifuge is a 1-star card. Steroid Drip is a 1-star card. Annulus Fabricator is a 2-star card. Contagionoma is a 4-star card. Instabeast is a 4-star card. Geothermal Furnace is a 3-star card. Hunter of Man is a 3-star card. Energetic Broxa is a 1-star card. Crucible Flare is a 2-star card. Charon Portcullis is a 2-star card. Plasma Station is a 2-star card. Strigoi Runner is a 1-star card. Gorgon Ellie is a 2-star card. Masheri Blade Dancer is a 3-star card. Strigoi Prota is a 2-star card. Aggravated Injury is a 3-star card. Anelli is a 5-star card. Comrades in Arms is a 3-star card. Judas Hex is a 4-star card. Call from the Grave is a 5-star card. Muscle Weight is a 3-star card. Volkov Hetman is a 5-star card. Unforgivable Crossing is a 3-star card. Automagic Artillery is a 4-star card. Arc Lighter is a 2-star card. Mod Frame is a 3-star card. Hammam Retreat is a 2-star card. Null Seeker is a 1-star card. Danger Zone is a 2-star card. Hand of Sod is a 5-star card. Jazaeri Arquebus is a 5-star card. A Mind of Its Own is a 1-star card. Forge Smith is a 4-star card. Juke is a 5-star card. Dead Angler is a 2-star card. Shinobi of Chains is a 5-star card. Merciless Koshinga is a 5-star card. Moon in the Water is a 4-star card. Gamma Senin is a 4-star card. Risen from the Deep is a 3-star card. And Kentafire Tygon is a 1-star card. Alright, finally, the expansion is out. I've reviewed every card in it. So please let me know what you think after all of that, if you agree with my assessments in the comments, and thanks for watching.